Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. Today is Wednesday, November 6, 2019. Today we'll be starting Chapter 9. I have not posted Chapter 8's homework. I will do so right after class today, so be on the lookout for that. I'll make sure that it's not due until next Wednesday at 11:55 to make sure you have a week out of doing it. So I do apologize for not getting that posted. I had some things come up yesterday. So be on the lookout for Chapter 8 homework. I did get everyone's website reflection paper, so I appreciate you all getting that. And the same with homework number 7. I will try to have those graded and back to you by the end of this week, so be on the lookout for those grades as well. So once again, today we're going to be starting Chapter 9. My goal is to cover the first half of it today and then the second half of it on Friday. So we'll be wrapping up Chapter 9 this week as well. Then this weekend I will post Chapter 9's homework, and I'll give you a week out in order to be able to complete that assignment before the due date. That'll leave us on pretty good pace to finish all our new material prior to Thanksgiving break. I'm pretty sure that is my goal, is to finish all the new material prior to then, so that way when we come back we can just focus on reviewing for the final exam, and have a little bit of an easy day or two instead of covering the material. So that's my plans. Hopefully we'll stay on track. That's why I'm covering this whole chapter in 2 days as opposed to 3 or 4 days where we missed last Friday due to the power outage. So just a few things in this class here. Just want to make sure everyone knows where we're at right now, kind of where we're headed. So with that being said, let's get into Chapter 9, Online Content and Media. So the learning objectives for Chapter 9 are going to be to identify the major trends in the consumption of media and online content and the major revenue models for digital content delivery, understand digital rights management, understand the key factors affecting the online publishing industry, and understand the key factors affecting the online entertainment industry. We'll get started on page 349 on 9.1 online content. So no other sector of the American economy has been so challenged by the internet and the web than the content industries. Now, the online content industries are going to be organized into 2 major categories. The first being the print industries, which consists of items such as newspapers, books, and magazines. And the second being the online entertainment industries, which consist of television, feature-length movies, radio, video, games, and music. Now, as a communications medium, the web is a source of online content as well as a powerful new distribution platform. Now, in this chapter, we're going to be looking closely at publishing and entertainment. The publishing we're going to be looking at is the newspapers, books, and magazines. The entertainment we're going to be concerned with is music, film, games, and television. Now, these industries are going to make up the largest share of the commercial content marketplace, both in the offline environment and in the online environment. Content, audience, and market. Where are the eyeballs and the money? Now, the average American adult is going to spend around 4,200 hours each year consuming various media. Now, that's about an average of twice the amount of the average time spent at work, which is around 2,000 hours a year. Now, sales of tablets and smartphones have created new revenue streams for entertainment and media firms. As consumer behavior changes in response to the new technologies, these are going to become more and more rapid. Content is no longer tied to physical products and can be delivered over the internet to multiple mobile devices. And this is going to be reducing costs for the consumer or for the customer. Now, the next topic is media utilization. The proliferation of new mobile media devices, such as tablets and smartphones, has led to an increase in the total amount of time spent listening to radio, watching TV and movies, and reading books, newspapers, or even magazines. Now, the most popular medium is still the television. Second in line would be the internet, and then thirdly would be the radio. Now together, these three medias account for more than 77% of the hours spent consuming the various media. So of those 4,200 hours, this is going to be about roughly 77% of the time spent of those hours is going to be dealing with the television, the radio, and the internet. Now, while the internet is currently the second on the list as far as the most consumed media, it is a pretty good distance behind that of television. But it is a good thing to notice that the internet utilization has been growing at a very rapid pace. So eventually, I do believe it'll probably catch up with that of the television, as you know, the younger generations get older and the older generations kind of start making their way out. So I just think that's going to be a trend with this younger generation, that the internet's going to just eventually be the first hold the first spot. Now, the internet and traditional media, cannibalization versus complementarity. Several studies reveal that time spent on the internet is going to have a reduction in the time available that consumers spend for other media. Now, this is going to be referred to as cannibalization, where one media form consumes another, or one supplier's product reduces sales of another. So obviously we know, we've seen this before, we've mentioned this before, just haven't used the actual terminology of cannibalization, but obviously if someone's spending time doing one thing, that takes time away from them being able to do another thing. We're not omnipresent, so it would be nice, but we can't be two places at once or do two things at once usually. Depending on the task, some people might be able to multitask, but for the most part, spending time somewhere takes time away from somewhere else. That's pretty much what cannibalization is. Now, total music consumption measured in hours a day listening to music has increased dramatically, even though CDs have declined, and movie consumption has increased dramatically, even though DVD sales have declined. Content firms, physical products, printed newspapers, magazines, music CDs, and movie DVDs are being replaced by digital versions. Multimedia use reduces the cannibalization impact of the internet for some visual and aerial media. Obviously not for reading physical books or newspapers. Now, internet users are increasing the time they spend online reading newspapers, magazines, and even books. Next, we're going to talk about some media revenues. Internet media, while small, is growing at 12% annually, far faster than traditional media revenues. And now, at the time of this text, television accounted for 28% of media revenues. Print media, such as books, newspapers, and magazines, accounted for 37%. Video games accounted for 9%. 7% was the internet media, music media, 11%, and box office 4%. So that's a little bit of a breakdown at the time of this text, I believe in 2014, as to media revenues and where it's derived from. If we see on Figure 9.2, obviously it's not going to be on a test, it's dated, but it'll give you a little breakdown of pretty much the same thing we just read over. It just shows you the breakdown of where the source of these media revenues by channel. Now, there are three revenue models for digital content delivery. The three consist of subscription, a la carte, and advertising supported free and freemium. Now, the two pay models are subscriptions, which is usually an all-you-can-eat type of a service. So you subscribe to whatever the service is you're subscribing to, and say you just subscribe to it monthly or annually or semi-annually, whatever the terms might be of the agreement, and you can have unlimited access to whatever that service is, as long as you pay that fee of whatever your subscription fee is. And a la carte is pay for what you use. So the a la carte is whatever you consume during a month, you'll be billed based upon the consumption. Now, the third model uses advertising revenue to provide content for free. And this is usually with the freemium, a higher price option if you want to upgrade to a better quality service. If everyone recalls from earlier in the semester, we had that the freemium case study where we talked about Pandora and different companies and that use the freemium model. So everyone should be familiar with the freemium model here. Now, contrary to early analysts' projections that free would drive paid out of business, it turns out that both models are viable now, and also it's expected to continue into the future. Now, consumers increasingly choose to pay for high quality, convenient, and unique content, and they have gladly accepted free advertising supported content as well. Now, there is nothing contradictory about all three models working in tandem and cooperatively. Free content can drive customers to paid content, as the recorded music firms have discovered with services like Pandora. So once again, just recall back to earlier in the semester when we did the case study on Pandora with the freemium model. Now, online content consumption, nearly 50% of internet users read newspapers and 43% listen to the radio, the two most popular activities. Now, casual games account for 41%, TV shows another 41%, and are nearly as popular. These are going to be followed by movies and music downloads and streams. Now, Figure 9.4 shows the estimated revenues from the online entertainment and media industries projected through 2015. So if we take a little look at Figure 9.4, obviously we can see that the revenues for the digital music, TV, and movie is just on an upward trajectory. I do not see it slowing down anytime in the near future as people become more and more accustomed and familiar and just, everything's moving towards this internet platform and the mobile devices and tablets. I just look for it to be more and more, this data to be more and more consumed as it's more easily available and more easily transportable when we travel on vacation or in the car or class, wherever you might be work. Now, online video and music are the largest and projected fastest growing online segments, followed by TV. TV will be the second fastest growing one. Now we're going to take a look at the fastest growing paid content area. These areas consist of videos, which is going to include movies, short videos, and TV shows. Now this audience is huge and growing very rapidly. Figure 9.5 at the bottom of page 354 shows the top online video sites dated from March 2012. Now these are going to be listed in terms of unique viewers and minutes per viewer. So if we take a look at Figure 9.5, the top 10 US online video sites, we can see that Google Sites is by far the most visited one and time spent, followed by Hulu. Now obviously I think if we would take a look at these, we would probably have a little bit of a different breakdown today, but I still think Google would probably hold pretty strong still because of its YouTube. So now let's take a little bit deeper dive in here on these online video sites. The top 10 sites had over 180 million video viewers. The largest site was Google, mainly because of the YouTube, and it had 157 million viewers, of which 17.6 million videos are being watched. That was followed by Yahoo and the fastest growing music video site, Vevo. The monetary value of all these videos is that they attract large audiences that can be shown ads. So we see that a lot today's time now, that's shifted obviously towards Facebook and these other social platforms a lot, because that's why a lot of these advertisers are targeting these social platforms, just as they did these Google and these other ones, because they know there's a lot of people that are visiting these websites. Now, the overall size of the online video audience is about the same size as the traditional television audience. There are about 115 million households with televisions that ultimately represent about 200 million individuals who tune in every month into television. However, major TV events tend to draw a much higher viewership. A good example is in 2012, the Super Bowl attracted 111.3 million people. So 111.3 million people watched the game, not including who was at the game. So that's a pretty large number there. And obviously, no internet video has drawn such a large audience during a single time period. So I think it's going to be pretty difficult for internet to be able to match that of events that's been broadcasted for years and years on television. Events, especially major sporting events such as the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals or the World Series or World Cup, whatever it might be. Those are definitely the highest saturated audiences, I guess you could say, or the highest in one place at one time. And I don't see the internet changing that. Now, free or fee. What are some of the attitudes about paying for content and the tolerance for advertising? Now, in the early years of online content, multiple surveys found that large majorities of the internet audience expected to pay nothing for online content, although equally large majorities were willing to accept advertising as a way to pay for free content. Now, until internet services such as iTunes arrived, few thought the fee model could compete with the free model. Cable TV systems offer a totally different history. They obviously have always charged for service and content, and cable TV experts never thought that information wanted to be free. In 2012, millions of internet users pay for high-quality content delivered on a convenient device, such as a smartphone or tablet computer. In a demonstration of just how much quality online content is worth, by 2012, Apple had sold 20 billion songs, 450 million TV shows, and more than 100 million movies. Most experts thought free would drive out fee models, yet the percentage of illegal downloaders in the United States ultimately shrank from 16% to 9% in the last 2 years. Digital rights management and walled gardens. Content producers, such as newspapers, book publishers, television, movie, and music, generate revenue and profits from their creations, and they protect these revenue streams through copyrights. We've already discussed copyrights in this class, so everyone should know what that is. In the digital age, when exact copies and wide-scale distribution of works is possible, protecting the copyrights to content is a major challenge. Once again, we've seen that in previous chapters on how much more difficult it is to actually protect intellectual property on an online platform as it is in the normal old school print or CDs and stuff of that sort. So the online medium is much more difficult to protect these intellectual properties that artists have created. In an effort to try to protect these intellectual properties, there's digital rights management, which refers to a combination of technical and legal means for protecting digital content from unlimited free production and distribution without permission. DRM can prevent users from purchasing and making copies for widespread distribution over the internet without compensating the content owners. Newer cloud-based digital services have made traditional DRM software services a little less useful, but most music firms with subscription services use technologies that limit the time period that a song can be played without resubscribing. So, example, Rhapsody at the time was one of the largest music providers. It would let you play a song for 30 days for free, but it would not allow you to listen to it beyond 30 days if you did not actually subscribe for that service. Now, these newer digital services, including both Apple and Amazon, use a kind of a DRM called a walled garden to restrict the widespread sharing of content. A good example is ebooks purchased from Amazon can only be played on Kindles or Kindle apps running on smartphones, tablets, computers, or browsers. By locking the content to a physical device, the appliance makers derive additional revenues and profits by locking consumers into the service or device. Next, we're going to get into 9.2, the online publishing industry. Now, nothing is quite so fundamental to civilized society as reading text. This is ultimately the way we record our history, current events, thoughts, and aspirations, and transmit them to all others in a civilization who have the capability to read. Now, the internet is going to offer the text publishing industry an opportunity to move toward a new generation of newspapers, magazines, and books that are produced, processed, stored, distributed, and sold over the web, making them available anywhere, at any time, and on any device. Online newspapers. Newspapers in 2012 are the most troubled segment of the publishing industry. Troubles that result almost exclusively from the availability of alternatives to the printed newspaper. Also important is the failure of newspaper management to protect its valuable content from being distributed for free by headline aggregators. Now, these headline aggregators consist of Yahoo, MSN, and Google, as well as little bloggers. Now, these search firms can index online newspaper content and provide search results to users' queries. There would not be a Google or Yahoo News functionality without traditional reporters and editors who work for newspapers and create the content. As a lot of you have noticed, probably a single or original high-quality newspaper article generates hundreds, if not thousands, of internet knockoff articles on blogs, news aggregation sites, and even content generator sites. So ultimately what this means is these sites are pretty much just stealing the work of these newspapers and these journalists that are writing these reports and these stories, and they're just linking them to these sites and just put, stealing the headline news out of them, or the top stories, and just posting them on sites so that we can see it without actually having to go to the newspaper. Now, over 60% of newspapers have reduced news staff in the last 3 years, and 61% report shrinking the size of the newspaper. Readership has been declining for 10 years. Print edition advertising is down 15% a year. Subscriptions are down, and old print readers are not being replaced by young readers because they instead go to the internet to read their news. So once again, that's why I think this trend is going to continue, and that of newspapers and the same with television. Obviously, we're seeing it in newspapers, but with television, that's why I believe the internet will eventually bypass television as this younger generation continues to move forward and the older generation moves out. Now, alternative online sources such as Yahoo, Google, and even blogs have become major sources of news for many Americans. Now, even though the newspaper has been struggling in the past, and they've been laying off people and printing less papers and shrinking the size of their papers, there is some good news as well. Online readership of newspapers is growing at more than 10% a year. New reading devices from smartphones to e-readers, iPads, and tablet PCs connected to wireless networks are going to offer opportunities for online newspapers to be read everywhere. Newspaper owners are exploring ways to protect their content and are introducing paid premium news and views, a la carte purchase of articles, subscriptions to digital versions, and online apps for mobile devices. So there is some good news there. These newspaper firms, obviously, if they want to survive, ultimately they should still keep their original printed version of the press. But ultimately, if they're going to survive moving forward in this digital age, they're going to have to become more and more digital and offer their services more on the online platform instead of that of the offline platform. So still some good news for them. Now, audience size and growth. According to the Newspaper Association, in 2012, print newspapers had around 46 million paid subscribers. Now, this was down from 62 million in 1990. Now, on an average day, 49 million people read a print newspaper, and 150 million read a newspaper online. Now, there are more than 10,000 online newspapers in the world. According to ComScore, online newspapers experienced very strong growth in recent quarters. So, once again, it's showing that these online newspaper sites are actually growing, even though that the offline model is shrinking. So it could almost be a wash if they would move at a quick enough pace. Figure 9.6 at the bottom of page 357 shows some monthly unique visitors at online newspapers. The New York Times brand is going to be the most frequently visited, followed by that of USA Today. And the least viewed one at the time of this text was the Wall Street Journal online. Now, given this huge online newspaper audience, it is clear that the future of newspapers lies in the online mobile market, even as readership and subscriptions to the traditional print newspapers continue to decline at a steady pace. Next to social networks, newspapers produce the largest online audience of any media. The internet provides existing branded newspapers the opportunity to extend their brands to a new online audience, and also gives entrepreneurial firms the opportunity to offer services. These services consist of classified job listings, and ultimately they'll be displayed on the web that were previously delivered by newspapers. Newspaper business models. The online newspaper industry has gone through several business models, from fee to free, and most recently struggling to return to a fee-based, metered, and subscription business model. So went from fee to free, and now we're trying to make our way back from free to fee. In the past, a few online newspapers, such as the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and Financial Times, located in the UK, charged for some or all online content, especially premium content. Sorry, everyone. Now, starting in March of 2011, the New York Times, which was at the time was the world's largest online newspaper, started charging for online access. Print subscribers would pay $300 a year for 7 days of home or business delivered editions and complete free access to any online editions from the web to smartphone apps. Now, unlimited digital access was about $420 a year at the time. And those who are not a print or digital subscriber was limited to 10 free articles a month. Now, tablet computers and e-readers offer newspapers an opportunity to connect directly with their readers anytime and anywhere. So pretty much the newspaper business model, the main thing to understand there is that it started from a fee model to a free model, and then ultimately have tried to start creeping their way back in from moving from a free model back to that of a fee model through subscriptions or whatever form model that they choose to have. Next is ebooks and online book publishing. In April of 2000, Stephen King, one of America's most popular writers, published a novella called Riding the Bullet. This novella was only available as an ebook. And King was the first major fiction writer to create an ebook-only volume of a new work. Now, King's publishers, Simon and Schuster, arranged for sales online through online retailers such as Amazon. And the first day that it was released, there was more than 400,000 downloads, and it was so many that Amazon's server crashed several times. 10 years later, on April 15th, 2010, Amanda Hocking, an unknown and unpublished self-publisher from Austin, Minnesota, uploaded one of her vampire novels. This novel was My Blood Approves. She uploaded it to Amazon's self-publishing site and later to Barnes & Noble's ebook store. Her novel had previously been rejected by many of the publishing houses in New York, but by March 2011, she had sold more than 1 million copies of her ebooks. Her copies generally sold from around 99 cents to $2.99 a copy, and she earned more than $2 million, so sold a lot of copies of her books. Now, in the space of a decade, ebooks have gone from an unusual experiment by a major author to an everyday experience for millions of Americans, and an exciting new market for authors. Sales of ebooks have exploded in a few short years, and the process of writing, selling, and distributing books has radically changed. An entire new channel for self-published authors now exists. This channel is not controlled by the major New York publishing houses and their professional editors. So in essence, by bypassing the professional editors and publishers, authors can now crowdsource the distribution of their books. I really think this is a good thing for authors. I think it's crappy when you have to be bound to that of people like publishers and stuff of that sort, professional editors, because a lot of times it's just opinionated. If in their opinion, if it's not something that they think wouldn't do well, then they just shoot it down. Obviously, in the case of Amanda Hocking, publishers, the New York publishers, were absolutely wrong. So, you know, if it would still be just without the internet and had to go through these publishers and professional editorials, a lot of successful authors that are out there in today's age would never even have a chance to have their work seen or heard by an audience. So I think this is good here. It gives people, everyday people, a chance that if they have aspirations to want to be a writer or an author, then they have that opportunity to be able to distribute their work and see what type, see how it works. Next, Amazon and Apple, the new digital media ecosystems. Prospects for ebooks picked up in 2001 with the introduction of Apple's iPod, which later became a platform for ebooks. In 2004, Sony introduced the first E-Link reader. In 2007, the iPhone smartphone was released with high-definition color screen that could be used to read books. The future of ebooks was finally established when Amazon introduced the Kindle in 2007. Now, the early Kindle, the readers used electronic ink technology, providing a higher resolution than PCs and a longer battery life than portable book readers. The early Kindle had 16 megabytes of memory and could store 200 books. Now, Amazon's bookstore is the largest online bookstore on the internet. Today, the Kindle Fire is no longer simply an ebook reader, but rather a media and entertainment portable device. Now, in 2012, Amazon's ebook and media store contained an estimated 1 million book titles. Ebooks received another large boost in 2010. This was a result as Apple introduced its first iPad tablet computer. It had a large 11.7-inch screen and access to iTunes Store, online music, video, TV, and book content. So ultimately, the iPad was an ideal media entertainment device. Amazon did get the jump on Apple and dedicated e-book readers, but Apple's approach from the beginning was a multi-purpose device that could handle movies, music, magazines, and books, as well as having a Wi-Fi connection to the internet. Apple has sold about 84 million iPads since 2007, and that was at the time of this text, so obviously I'm sure that number is a lot higher now. Now, the result of Amazon and Apple ecosystems, combining hardware, software, and online megastores, is an explosion in online book content, readership, authorship, marketing, and at least a partial upending of the traditional book publishing and marketing channels. In the traditional process, authors worked with agents who sold book manuscripts to editors and publishers, who then sold these books through bookstores and at a price determined largely by the publishers. In the new publishing model, authors still write books, but then bypass traditional agent and publisher channels and instead publish their books electronically through Amazon or Apple online stores. These prices are now going to be determined by the author, which are usually much lower than traditional books. Depending on the popularity of the author, and the platform takes a percentage of the sale. Usually the platform takes around 30% of the proceeds. New self-published authors typically give away their early works to develop an audience, and then as an audience begins to be attracted, they tend to start switching from free to charging a small amount for their books. And typically it's going to be around 99 cents to $2.99 per copy. Same as that Amanda Hawkins did back in April 15, 2010 with her My Blood Approves vampire novel. Now, marketing occurs by word of mouth on social networks, author blogs, and public readings. Now, what are the challenges of the digital ebook platform? Now, because of the rapid growth in ebooks, the book publishing industry is in stable, even robust condition. There are two major challenges that are facing book publishers. These two challenges are cannibalization and finding the right business model. Cannibalization in digital markets refers to potential for new digital products to rapidly reduce the sales of existing physical products. So once again, we're revisiting this cannibalization topic. Now, both the music and newspaper industries have suffered cannibalization, with revenues declining by 50% or more over the last decade. As digital revenues have expanded, print book sales have gone down about $1 billion from the previous year. Now, the overall picture that emerges is that the rapid growth of ebooks and online sales has lowered sales of physical books in bricks and mortar stores. Now, much of this lost revenue is being made up by the growth in ebook sales online. So once again, it's kind of a wash here. The offline industry is struggling, but the online industry is booming. So pretty much just changing your pace and just getting used to doing something different. And obviously finding the right business model is also a challenge. Interactive books. The future of ebooks will also depend in part on changes in the concept of a book. Now, the modern book is not really that different from the first two facing page bound books that began to appear in the 17th century in Europe. Obviously, the traditional books were very simple, non-digital. The text appears left to right, pages are numbered, and there's a front and back cover, and text pages are bound together by stitching or glue. So obviously, not much has changed in our physical books. Interactive books combine audio, video, and photography, sorry, with text, providing the reader with a multimedia experience that is thought to be more powerful than simply reading a book. So in 2012, Apple released iBook Author, an app to help authors create interactive books. And obviously, hundreds of children's books are already built as interactive books. Magazines rebound on the tablet platform. So magazines in the United States reached their peak circulation in the early 1980s. Most Americans got their national and international news from 3 weekly news magazines: Time, Newsweek, and U.S. News and World Report. Now, circulation fell after 2000, mainly in part because of the internet. At first, the internet and the web did not have much of an impact on magazine sales, mainly in part because the PC was no match for the high-resolution, large-format pictures that was found in the Life or Time. Now, as screens improved and as videos on the web became more common, and the economics of the color publishing changed, magazine circulation began to plummet, and advertisers turned their attention to the digital platform on the web. Now, magazines and newsstand sales dropped from 22 million units in 2001 to 11 million in 2011. So in 10 years, it declined by 50%. Special interest, celebrity, homemaking, and automobile magazines have, however, remained stable. Now, despite the shrinkage of the print subscription and newsstand sales, the growth of digital magazine sales has been extraordinary. Popular websites like Pinterest, an image collecting site that attracts millions of women, Facebook, Yahoo, and Twitter are the largest drivers of traffic to digital magazines. Now, with hundreds of popular online magazines to choose from, magazine aggregators like Zenio and Apple's Newsstand make it possible for customers to find their favorite magazines using a single app. A magazine aggregator is a website or app that offers users online subscriptions and sales on many digital magazines. So pretty much just pulls all these magazines into one medium, like creates a channel to have all this stuff at one-stop shop, pretty much, magazine aggregator. That is all I have for today. That is the first half, maybe a little over the first half of chapter 9. On Friday, we will finish up chapter 9. We'll be picking up on page 364 with 9.3, the online entertainment industry. Once again, I will post the homework for chapter 8 this afternoon, and be on the lookout for that, and I will see everyone in class on Friday.